Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you everyone so much for joining Simone and I today. We're so excited because we are finally concluding our ABCs of ACB series. And for the next hour, you're going to have an amazing demonstration and explanation of how to connect your systems with Anypoint Code Builder. Now that Code Builder has been GA for a little bit, we've been seeing some awesome community contributions. And so we hope that this stream really elevates how you're using Anypoint Code Builder to the next level. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Simone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thanks for hosting this today and welcome everyone. My name is Simone Geib and I'm product manager at MuleSoft, focusing on Anypoint Code Builder. I prepared a few slides, not too long, because the main part of this today is going to be the demo, but I wanted to first remind you, this is the third in a series of Twitch streams. We also had some meetups that we called the ABCs of ACB. This was leading up to our GA of ACB for desktop on October 17th, and this Twitch stream was supposed to happen on October 12th, but we had postponed it, so we are rounding up this series today. And we had the A, which was architecting APIs with ACB by my fellow product manager, Dakota Garcia, who is also on the stream today as the secret ninja, and he's going to answer your questions. Then we had the B, boosting efficiency with ACB and AI by our third product manager, Mofi, who focused on showing you Einstein for Anypoint Code Builder. And then today is the C, and I'm going to show you how to connect systems with ACB. You can get to the A and the B. They have been recorded, and so will be the C today. So I am going to talk a little bit about roadmap. So I'm going to show you this forward-looking statement. So don't sign any contracts based on things that are on the roadmap that have not actually yet been released. But now, what is Anypoint Code Builder? So Anypoint Code Builder is the next generation IDE at MuleSoft to design, develop, deploy, and test your APIs and integrations. So this is your new developer environment at MuleSoft for APIs and integrations, and it's based on Visual Studio Code. So you know, Anypoint Studio is based on Eclipse, and so when we decided that we want to implement a new IDE, we did a lot of research, and we found that the favorite IDE for developers nowadays is Visual Studio Code. So we decided to take that as the foundation, and then the next decision was to provide Anypoint Code Builder in two flavors, as a cloud IDE and as a desktop IDE. The cloud IDE runs on Salesforce Code Builder, which also recently GA'd. You may have heard of it. That gives us the foundation to run our Visual Studio Code extensions in the cloud. And on the desktop, you can just install Visual Studio Code and get our extension pack. Now, we decided to do a staggered release. So the desktop version is GA today, while the cloud version is an open beta. Both have the exact same features. And I was going to show you my demo in the desktop IDE today, but for some reason, Twitch decided to make my life hard and didn't let me share my Visual Studio Code desktop for reasons that I cannot explain. So I'm going to do the demo in the cloud IDE, but you can do exactly the same thing in the desktop. If there is time at the end, I may also show you our Einstein for Anypoint Code Builder, which is really cool. It's used for flow generation through a prompt. But if there is no time, then go back to the B that Mofi did and watch that recording, because she went into a lot of detail showing how Einstein for Anypoint Code Builder works. Also, if you're interested, that part of Anypoint Code Builder is currently in a pilot. So please talk to your account team about how to get into the pilot for Einstein for ACB. So now quickly, These are the three main user journeys with Anypoint Code Builder. The first one is designing an API. You can design OAS or RAML APIs. That Dakota showed you that in the A, and he also showed how you can implement that API. So I'm going to skip those two use cases today, and I'm going to focus on how to develop an integration that is triggered by an application event. And so just quickly showing you the slide. We don't need to really watch this GIF very long because I'm going to do the demo and show you everything that is involved in developing an integration. So the demo today, because it's all about connecting systems, I'm going to show you how you can connect to Salesforce, define a Salesforce trigger every time a new case is created in Salesforce. Then I'm going to create the same case also in Jira. I'm going to write the outcome of that to a file. And if the case is high priority, then I'm also going to send a message to Slack. And then I'm going to show you how you can debug this in Anypoint Code Builder and how you can deploy to Cloud Hub. So now, quickly opening the door for my puppy, Lily, let's say hello as well. So this is our mascot, our unofficial mascot for Anypoint Code Builder. This is Lily, just introducing her. And every time I lean to the left, you will know I will either let her come in or let her go out. So let's do that because we don't want her to start barking. All right, back to our demo. Yes, everybody loves Lily. She's so super cute. Okay, so now let me go to, you can see here I have several things open. I have Salesforce open to create a new case. I have Jira open, and you can see here, just proving that this is a live demo, there is one case in the backlog right now. And I have Slack, and there's just one message here in Slack. So now let's go to the Anypoint platform. So everyone, if you log into your Anypoint platform now, will see this new tile here for Anypoint Code Builder, and it does say beta because the Cloud IDE is still in open beta while the desktop is in GA. So you click on getting started, and so this leads you to a website which we call ACB Central. So on here, if you already have a Cloud IDE, you can manage it, you can reboot it, you can delete it. You get the URL from here when it was created. And then down here, it will also tell you how you install Anypoint Code Builder for desktop. So if I click on this link, it opens Visual Studio Code Marketplace. And there you will find the Anypoint extension pack. You click here, I already have it installed, so I'm not going to click on it, but you click here on install. This will then install the 7 extensions that make up Anypoint Code Builder directly into your Visual Studio Code installation. Here you get the prereqs. You need to first install Visual Studio Code, you need to install Git, and you need an Anypoint platform account. From here, you can link to the setup. And then here, this is the information about the extensions that are included. So you can do that, or you can go back and you can launch your Cloud IDE. And I've already done that here. And you will see that when you install your extensions into your desktop, you get this little MuleSoft icon that I have here in my Cloud IDE as well. And when you click on that, you get this sidebar. When you click on this home button, you get what we call a welcome mat. So now here you get quick actions to design an API, implement an API, develop an integration. That's the one I'm going to show you in a little bit. We also link to the documentation. And we have tutorials for you if you want to learn how ACB works. And then down here, you can also submit your feedback. So now I have recently seen that people use this in order to report issues. That's not what this is for. right? So if you have problems in ACB for desktop, please open a support case. This is really just to submit your feedback. This will help us maybe prioritizing features or things like that, but don't use it for submitting issues. Okay, so now also this is Visual Studio Code, remember I talked about the extensions, so you can go here and you can see all the extensions that were installed here as part of Visual Studio Code. So let's go back here. A few other things that we get out of the box with VS Code. One of them is snippets. So snippets are little parts of XML code. I know XML, strictly speaking, isn't code, that you can use in your Mule integration flows. And you can see here, I have a number of snippets that I prepared for my demo. And you can see those are the XML tags. There is a specific syntax to create snippets. And this is all described in the Visual Studio Code documentation. And there's also a thing called snippet generator, which is what I'm using in order to create my snippets. You can use snippets for demos, but you can also use them to share best practices with your team. So for example, you could say, like, every time we use a logger, we set it to debug. So you can then put the logger in here, which is already set to debug, or anything else that you want to share, or things that you do a lot. Like, for example, I have here the Salesforce new case trigger. So I created a snippet for that because I do that a lot. And so I already preset what I'm using in that case. Another thing that we get from Visual Studio Code is with what is called the command palette. On the Mac, there's a shortcut. It's Command-Shift-P. And that opens the command palette for all the commands in Visual Studio Code. Now, every extension that you install in here will add new commands. And we have these commands for Anypoint Code Builder that start with MuleSoft. So you can see here, for example, implement an API specification. This one is super useful. Export troubleshooting information. If you open a support case, then you should probably do that, and you should provide the troubleshooting information. And so these are all the MuleSoft commands if you rather use commands than icons. Okay, so now, without further ado, let's get into the demo, and I am going to develop an integration. So I'm going to call this new case SF, and we are also using Jira, File, and Slack. And I'm just accepting this project location. So now under the covers, this creates a new Mule project with the name that I just gave it. You can see here we have the Explorer on the left. So you can see here it creates this XML file under source main Mule. And a question that I get a lot, we also had the customer roadmap webinar yesterday, and a lot of people ask, well, so first of all, is this going to replace Anypoint Studio? And the answer is yes. So this will eventually replace Anypoint Studio. It supports the same use cases as Anypoint Studio and API Designer. So we are putting both of them into the same tool. So you can do them all from one tool, but we are not sunsetting Studio right away, right? There are still new releases of Studio. And it's still, like, there are 3 releases a year for Studio until we have reached full parity between Anypoint Code Builder and Studio. And only then will we announce the EOL of Studio, but you will still get enough time in order to migrate over. And now another question I got yesterday is, well, how do you migrate over? And so what's important to know is that Mule projects in Anypoint Code Builder are the same as Mule projects in Studio. So we didn't change the underlying schema for a Mule project. And you will see that when I start implementing my demo here. So the recommendation is, if you want to move a project from Studio to ACB versus starting from scratch, that you go into Studio, you check into your source code management, GitHub, Bitbucket, or whatever you use. And then within ACB, you then check it out. Here, this is where you set up your source control in Visual Studio Code. We get that out of the box as well. And so you can just go that recommended route. We also support, if you export a jar file from Studio, a Mule project jar file, you can also import that into ACB, or you can open a Studio project folder in ACB. So in a way, it's not really a migration. For me, a migration is when like everything changes and you need a migration tool. This is really just taking your project from Studio, putting it into ACB, open it there, and continue work. And you can also do the other way around. So now I'm also going to sign into the Anypoint platform. Actually, somehow, let's just do it from here so that we can see one more exciting thing. Okay, so this is logging in. And now, just like magic, you can also see Einstein for ACB. If you're part of the pilot, you will only get Einstein if you're logged in. I'm obviously part of the pilot. You also get some information here. And then after you create a new project, you now get the choice. Do you want to start from scratch or do you want to start with AI? I'm going to show you how you start from scratch right now by building a flow. So I am creating a new flow. And so there's a few more things that I want to point out here, things that look a little bit different if you are a Studio user. So first of all, we have our Explorer on the left here. That's not very different. But we have this split view here, where on the right, you can see the XML, the Mule XML. On the left, you see what we call the flow canvas. You can keep them open at the same time, and you can also close one or the other. But I like keeping them open. And a lot of people we talked to also said, well, we like doing most of our work in the graphical user interface, but then just drop into the XML for little things, like, for example, changing the name of my flow. I could also do that over here. And this is the other thing I want to show you. We cleaned up the canvas a little bit. And once I start building my flow, you can see that the flow is vertical versus horizontal. That's because of this split. And also, we show one flow at a time on here. So now you click here on flow list. Obviously, I only have one flow right now, but if you have more than one, you can switch between them. And in here, you can also change the name. You can delete the flow, or you can create a new flow. And you can also click on here, and then you can click a new flow, subflow, or error handlers. All right. So now we're ready to dive into the canvas a little bit more. So the first thing I want to do is I want to define a trigger every time a new case is created in Salesforce. For that, I need a Salesforce connector. So I already told you we're going to work with 4 systems, and there are going to be 4 connectors. And I don't want to put the credentials for my connector into clear text here for you all to see. Not that I don't trust you, but it's not really good practice. So before I get started, what I will do is I will use a config.yaml file, which centralizes my credentials into one file, and then I will just reference those into this XML file. For that, and I have already prepared it, because if I created that on the spot here, it would defeat the point of not showing you my credentials. So I'm going to open my terminal, and I'm going to copy over let's see, where am I? I am here. And I want to copy over my config.yaml file into the resources folder. So I'm going to go here, copy the path, and I have it in my home folder. So I'm going to copy from my home folder my config.yaml into here. And yes, I want to allow this. Oh, you will all have spotted that it's actually CP and not CD. I don't know why. It happens a lot to me. But this is live, and you wouldn't believe that it's live if I didn't make some mistakes. Okay, so now we have our config.yaml here, and I am going to add my configuration properties in here. So now if this was a production application, you actually wouldn't just put your credentials into config.yaml, but you would also use secure properties. And if you go and watch the Mofi's session, she also talks about secure properties and how you can use those in your flow. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to open my output down here so that you can also see what is happening. And I will now add my configuration for my Salesforce connector. We pre-bundle a number of connectors with ACB. The Salesforce connector is one of them. The file connector is the other one. Jira and Slack are not pre-bundled, so I'm going to show you how you can import those. But because the Salesforce connector one is included, maybe you saw when I added this configuration that down here, it actually said it's adding the dependency. So in my POM, I now have the dependency for the Salesforce connector. So it adds the dependency when you use it for the first time. And you can see here, I'm showing you the username, not the password. And here, this is another thing we get with Visual Studio Code. This is called a code lens. So every time you put in a configuration for a connector, you get a little code lens in order to test your connection. And you will also have noticed that notification in VS Code are always down here on the bottom right. And right now, this is verifying my Salesforce config connection using the credentials that I put in, and it's going to tell me if my credentials are correct or not. Awesome, my connection is valid. Also, I just realized that if I actually want to see output, then I need to switch to Mule DX server. I'm going to keep this small for now, just to see if anything happens. But finally, I'm going to add something to the flow. So if I click on the plus, this opens our panel here on the right, and you can see we have 3 groups of things here. So first of all, we have our core processes, batch components. Like if I go further, flow control, we have choice, we have a scheduler, we have our transformers. So you could add those, or you could add connectors. You can see these are the pre-bundled connectors. So you can see Salesforce is here, file is here. We update the versions when we have a new release. You can use these, or you can import connectors, which I will show you in a little bit. And then we also have snippets. We actually pre-bundle snippets with ACB. And also you can see the user snippets that I just showed you before. And so remember the snippets file that I opened. This is my Salesforce new case trigger. And you can see when I put this in, it just adds here the XML. So let me make a little bit more space. We don't really need that right now. You can see the XML here. So now why is it showing me an error? Because a Mule flow with just a trigger is not valid. I need to add a second processor in here. And so after my flow is triggered, I get a new case in Salesforce. I want to extract the priority and also the case number. So for that, I am going to use a transform to extract my two variables. You can see, first of all, I'm getting the priority and the case number here, and also the error went away because now the flow is valid. So I could now start testing it, but I want to do a few more things. I also want to point out that I'm doing this with snippets right now, but our next release, which is planned for February next year, is going to bring in what we call a configuration panel, where you can click on this and you can now configure here the nodes in your flow versus just doing it over here. All right, so the next thing I want to do is, actually, let me close this. I want to create a case in Jira. So I'm going to show you two ways of how you can import connectors from Exchange. So the first one is going here. So instead of just showing the connectors that we have locally available, now this went to Exchange and it's showing me all the connectors that are available in Exchange. So if I type in Jira, here now it filters and I'm saying, okay, I want this Jira connector here. And now it's fetching the connector operations. What I want to do is I want to create an issue in Jira. So it's now going to Exchange. It's getting the information about the Jira connector, and then it's going to give me the operations. The speed of this depends on your internet speed, because it's going to Exchange, and for some reason my internet is a little bit slow right now. I'm also on camera and all, but it will eventually show me the operations. You can also see down here, it's loading the connector elements, and it's also giving this here. Okay, so here we go. Now, what did I want to do? I wanted to create, I can actually put it in here versus just searching. I want to create an issue. Okay, so this is now getting the connector from Exchange and adding the dependencies into my POM file. So now, before I configure this, I'm going to add my config for my Jira connector. Okay, and again, this is using the variables from the config.yaml. I can kick off my test connection here, and then I can, instead of using a snippet, I'm going here and I am just going to say config ref equals, and I'm going to use this configuration. Okay, and I am going to change this. Okay, so now we are creating our issue in Jira, and our connection is valid, but what did I forget? I cannot just send the payload to Jira that I get from Salesforce. I actually need to create the right payload that Jira is expecting. So I'm going to add another transform here to prepare the Jira input. So I don't know if you're familiar with Jira. This is a very simple JSON going there. I previously created a project called ACB, and I am sending the subject that I get from Salesforce in here from the payload. I'm sending my description, and I'm going to create a bug. So this is pretty simple. So now, one more connection that we are going to make, we are also going to use our file connector. So I'm going to just simply write to a file the response that we're getting from Jira. And like always, I need my config. So we need our file config. And this is actually, okay, I'm going to change that in a little bit, but let's go here and let's say my file right here, my path is file.json, and we're just going to rename this to Jira response.json. And instead of taking this one, I'm actually going to change this. And I'm going to write this to home, to my home folder. Okay, excellent. So now we got our Salesforce case. We created a new case in Jira. We wrote it to the file. Now the last part is going to be, if this case is high priority, then we're going to send a message to Slack. So I want a choice. And again, I prepared a snippet here. I only need a when. I don't really need an otherwise. And in here, now I'm going to add my Slack connector. But I first need to get the connector from Exchange. So another way of importing a connector is using the command palette and saying import asset from Exchange. So now I could import a REST API, a DataWeave library, a GraphQL API, because we're also supporting implementing GraphQL APIs, not just REST APIs, or a connector. So I am importing a connector. The name's Slack. We have 2 Slack connectors, and I'm going to import the community version, the latest version. So now this is doing the same thing as if I had done this through the palette. It's adding the dependencies of the Slack connector into my pom.xml, and I am adding the configuration here. All right, so now we have Salesforce, Jira, Slack, and file. I'm also going to ahead and test this, and then I'm going to add my Slack post. Okay, so this is going to send, if the case is high priority, it's going to post it to a Slack channel, priority cases. And it's going to say, please handle this case with high priority, and it is sending the case number with this message. Okay, so now let's have a look at our flow. I'm just close this for now. Okay, don't have an error handler right now. Obviously, if this was a production use case, you would want to add your error handler. But we get a new case, and you can see every time I click here, it's highlighting this in the XML. We get a new case, we extract the priority and the case number, we prepare the Jira input, we create an issue in Jira, we write the case to a file, and then if it is high priority, we post to Slack. All right, so now the next step is going to be to debug this. So here you can see this little icon, run and debug, but I also want to set breakpoint, and I can never remember. Just going to set 3. Now I will click this debug icon, and so I'm also going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see what's happening. So ACB pre-bundles currently runtime 4.4. So when I click the debug button, what happens is it takes the Mule project, it compiles it, it creates a jar file from that project, and then it deploys it to the local runtime. So this is very, very similar to what Studio does. What's different is you don't change the perspective to a debug perspective like you do in Studio. You rather just go here and say debug, and you can see here, so it created this snapshot Mule application. It's now initializing this application, and you can also see here. So it's running this. This uses Mule Maven plugin under the covers in order to deploy this to the local runtime. Now, if I had made a mistake, it would now show me, it would say failed, and it would say why it had failed and what mistake I had been made. So now we've seen this is deployed. And now I'm going to go to Salesforce, here to my cases, and I am going to create a new case in Salesforce. And let me actually say Twitch issue. Twitch did not let me share my VS Code desktop. This is very important. Oh, it is new, but the priority is high. So I'm going to send this with high priority. And I am going to save this case here. So now, oh, you see this little dot? This is because we're now in debug mode. So let me actually close that. Okay, so now the trigger has triggered. Sorry, web plays are not my strong suit. And we're now here in debug mode. It stopped on my breakpoint, and you can see we got this Mule message here from Salesforce. Okay, so here's the information. Now I'm going to extract my two variables. So priority is high, and this is my case number. And so now the next step is to prepare my Jira input. So now you can see the Mule message has changed. And this is now my payload. This is what we are sending to Jira. Now I'm creating this issue in Jira. Okay. And now let me just show you, where's Jira? Here. Here, this is my new issue here that I created. You can see this is my Twitch issue. Twitch did not let me share my VS Code. Now the next one is going to be writing to a file. And I'm going to open the file when I'm done with debugging, because I'm doing that in the same screen here. And now this is high priority. So this is posting a message to Slack. And now if I go to Slack, you can see here, this is my new message in Slack. Excellent. So this worked. Now let's go back to our Explorer. Let's make this bigger. I'm going to go to the terminal. Oh, I'm already in the terminal. And I'm going to go to home. Here's my file. I could open the file just in the Explorer, but let's just show it here. So this is the response we got from Jira. Excellent. So this all worked. Now let me show you a few more things. Let's close this. Oh, one thing that I didn't show you. Okay, let's start this again. When you're in a debug session and something failed and you want to make like small changes, then we have something called hot deploy. So you don't want to like stop your debug session because it takes a while, right? You can see it packages it, it deploys it. That all takes a little while. And if you just want to change something small, so you don't want to change dependencies, and you want to do it in the same debug session, then you can do that here. Now, obviously, I made the mistake of stopping my debugger first, so I'm bringing it back up. And you see, so we have a number of icons up here. And here, this is the little flash icon. So with that, you can save and hot deploy to your local runtime. So now, once this has come up, I'm going to make a small change to my output to Slack. And then I'm going to redeploy that. And I'm going to show you, just run through this one more time. So this is deployed. And I am going to say, please, please, please handle this with high priority. And I'm going to click on here. All right, save and hot deploy. So this is the demo effect. Okay. So now this is deploying this again. And while it is doing that, I'm just going to go and prepare my new case here. Just going to say hot deploy. Okay, now let's first check if this is ready before I send it. Yeah, successfully started. Sending this. I will just click through very quickly. I didn't set the high priority. It never went to Slack. Couldn't prove this to you. Sorry about that. Okay, but now you can see that the choice works. Okay, so let's make this quick. And I did it again. Okay. Sorry. One more time. If you want to be fast, then you miss certain steps. Priority high. Okay. Third time's the charm. Oh, I never finished the last one. Oops. Okay. So now, oh, here. So now you can see it took this and it hot deployed, and it's now using the change that I've made. Okay. So now we're done with demoing the debugger. Back to our Explorer. And so now the last thing I want to show you is how you can deploy to Cloud Hub. So you can see these little icons up here, and this is your deploy to Cloud Hub icon. So you click on that, and then it first asks you which business group do you want to deploy to. Now let's hope I have permissions in this business group. And then it's creating a file called deploy.json with some default settings. You can make changes to those settings, or you can say, no, I'm fine. I just want to deploy this. And then it will go ahead, ask you for the environment. I'm going to deploy this to the sandbox. And now this is starting it packages up the application, and then it will deploy it over here. So now this is going to take a little while. I'm not actually going to wait until this is completely done with the deployment. Just a few things. So this currently, this does a direct deployment to Cloud Hub 1.0. If you want to deploy to Cloud Hub 2.0, RTF, hybrid, or anywhere else, then here is what you will do. Okay, I am in the wrong file. So you cannot do that when your deploy.json is open. You actually have to have this open. Okay, so you export your project to Mule deployable jar. You can also export the Mule application sources. So this is what you would do if you wanted to move a project from ACB to Studio, but I am now going to export this to a deployable jar. And so this is now packaging this up. It will create your deployable jar, and then you can take that. You can go to Runtime Manager, or you can go use it in your CI/CD pipeline. From here, because I'm in the Cloud IDE now, it's downloading this to. I'm just going to download it to my desktop, which it cannot download it to the downloads folder. But in any case, so you can download this to your disk. Then you go to Runtime Manager, and then you deploy it there. And I think that Dakota also showed this in detail in his session. So now Lily says she wants to come on screen again. Okay, come here, baby. All right. With this, we finished our demo. I showed you how you can connect to different systems. We connected to Salesforce, Jira, Slack, and File. I showed you how you can debug, how you can hot deploy, how you can deploy to Cloud Hub, and how you can export a deployable jar file. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this Twitch stream. I hope you learned how you can use Anypoint Code Builder, and I also hope that you will now go out, install Visual Studio Code if you don't already have it, install your extensions, and then start working with ACB. Let us know what you think.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simone. I see Dakota has been answering all of the awesome questions that we got in LinkedIn. If you have any last questions you'd like Simone to address live, we have her for a couple more minutes. And if I don't see anything come through, I will wrap us up. Just a reminder, while we wait for anyone who has questions, you can find all of our Twitch recordings at twitch.tv/MuleSoft_community/videos. You can also find them on the MuleSoft Videos YouTube channel. Definitely recommend rewatching if you're ever wanting to follow along or practice these demos on your own. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Twitter. LinkedIn is a great place to stay up to date on all things Anypoint Code Builder. We have a ton of content that we share there. And I know that Simone and team will be back with future streams as well. And it doesn't look like we have any questions that came through afterwards. So Simone, I just want to say thank you so much as always. Thank you, Lily, for being an amazing mascot for us and tuning in. And thank you to all of our viewers. We will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye.